The 90s were an explosive decade for entertainment, with some truly groundbreaking games, movies, and music that filled our lives with quality content. There were many great bands and musicians that helped define this era, like Nirvana, Nine Inch Nails, Gravity Kills, KMFDM, Filter, and so many more. But there's one band that's the focus of today's discussion, Stabbing Westward. It was nearly impossible to do anything in the mid to late 90s without unintentionally listening to Stabbing Westward. They had numerous radio hits including What Do I Have to Do, Shame, Save Yourself, Haunting Me, and more. The band's signature razor-sharp guitar riffs, haunting melodies, and intense vocals permeated the culture and helped define the decade. At the time, a deal was struck with Sony to distribute Stabbing Westward's music far and wide across multiple movies, TV shows, and video games. Their songs could be heard in several movies like Bad Boys, Clerks, Bride of Chucky, Spawn, The Faculty, Tekken, and so many more. A couple of tracks from their Darkest Days album were featured in the games Duke Nukem: A Time to Kill and Shaun White's Snowboarding. It was when Duke Nukem: A Time to Kill came out on the PlayStation that really put Stabbing Westward on the map for me. I was immediately hooked when I heard their song, The Thing I Hate, played during the intro. I went out and purchased the Darkest Days album the next day. Soon after that, I purchased their earlier albums, Ungod and Wither, Blister, Burn, and Peel. The roster of Stabbing Westward has seen changes over the years, with vocalist Chris Hall and keyboardist Walter Flockus being considered the core of the band. That's not to minimize the contributions of the other members, who brought their own unique talents to our eardrums. If you want to dive into more of the history of the band's members, I'll put a link in the description of this video to the band's official members page. In 2001, the band released their self-titled album. It had a serious shift in tone compared to their earlier albums, and was met with mixed criticism. It had a softer tone and was less intense than the sound Stabbing Westward was known for. It was a major departure from the previous album Darkest Days. When one of my friends heard a song from the album, he asked, "That's Stabbing Westward?" in a bewildered voice. Chris Hall isn't shy about his thoughts on the self-titled album, simply stating that he hates it, with the exception of one song, The Only Thing. The release of this album marked the end of an era, the end of the 90s, and the end of Stabbing Westward, as the band broke up shortly after its release and members went their separate ways for a variety of reasons. For what it's worth, I enjoyed the self-titled album, despite the fact that it was very different from their earlier work. My brother was going through a very difficult time in his life at around the time this album came out. I thought he'd like this album since the musical style in it was more his taste. He later revealed to me that this album saved his life, so you can take that for what it's worth. Additionally, one of my favorite Stabbing Westward songs ever can be found on this album. The final track, Television, is one of their finest songs ever created, in my opinion. Beautiful melodies and thoughtful lyrics, so Chris, it's not as bad as you think. The music of Stabbing Westward has been with me during some of the most impactful moments of my life, including my wedding day, where You Complete Me was played at the reception. For the sake of time, I won't go into it, but there are tons more examples I could give. Bottom line, Stabbing Westward has been a very important band in my life throughout the past 3 decades. As I mentioned before, the band broke up after the release of their self-titled album. During this time, Chris Hall started his own project called The Dreaming, which was a great band that scratched that Stabbing Westward itch so many people had, including myself. It has a similar sound that the older fans were familiar with, along with Chris's signature vocals. Years have passed, and in 2021, the stars aligned once again to allow Stabbing Westward the opportunity to release a new album after 2 decades. The album is called Chasing Ghosts. The clean production and familiar sound of the 90s Stabbing Westward was finally back, and fans all around the world rejoiced. There are plenty of great tracks on this album, with my personal favorites being Control Z and I Am Nothing. Stabbing Westward has also been busy doing tours and concerts again, so if you're fortunate enough to live close enough to attend one, you know what to do. So in closing, Stabbing Westward wasn't only one of the most important bands of the 90s, but one of the most important bands for me personally, as it got me through some of my darkest days. What are your thoughts on the band? Do you have a favorite song or album from them? I'm curious to hear your thoughts. So just save yourself! I hope hope you enjoyed this video. Please consider checking out my social media sites, Retro Gaiden and 1990x.chat. Links are in the description below. Have a great day.